Hey, thank you for joining the Child Discipleship Podcast by Awana, Lasting Faith in Jesus for Every Child. I'm Matt Markins, joined by...
I'm Mike Handler. Hey, Matt, everyone is concerned about how to get parents to help kind of in the discipleship of children, right?
It's a big
or youth or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Let's talk about maybe one of the underlying reasons as why that may not be happening.
Let's do it.
So, Matt, when anybody who's been in children's or youth ministry for any amount of time is wrestling with the same point of tension.
Yeah.
And that's, I just wish I could have more participation from those in the home, parents, grandparents, whomever it might be. They're just kind of unsettled on the matter of the fact of like, I just wish I had a partner with me on this whole thing. Why do you think some of that might be happening? It's not as though our parents aren't in church by and large. I mean, there are certainly kids who come from maybe unchurched families or whatnot, and we are so glad they're with us in our churches. But is there an underlying reason why you might think that parents maybe aren't in the view of children's pastors or children's ministry leaders, why they're not kind of like picking up the ball on their side of the field?
Yeah, so this phrase, partnering with parents or church in the home, working together to disciple kids, where did this language come from? It's probably always been around to a certain degree, but it was popularized in 2003. There is a man named George Barna, who's a leading Christian researcher. He's no longer with the brand that has his namesake, the Barna Group, but George Barna sold that. David Kinnaman now runs the Barna Group. Anyway, but George said in 2003 in a book you referenced a few episodes, Mike, called Transforming Children into Spiritual Champions, he popularized the phrase, parents are the primary spiritual influence over the lives of their kids.
I would imagine that anybody listening to this who, again, is involved in children's or youth ministry is thinking, well, yeah, that is absolutely the case.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just take a look at scripture. Let's take a look at these things and let's just see. Or like you had referenced episodes ago too, like we have them 1 out of 168 hours out of the week. How could I be, the primary in this regard?
So in real time, I just pulled up the exact quote because I was curious. It finds its way into a couple of books. Here's one of the source quotes for how this language got popularized. He says, parents should provide the primary spiritual training of children. The parents may receive encouragement, training, and resources through the church, but parents are intended by God to be the primary provider of spiritual direction and care. We're going to come back to that quote, but this language of primary that he uses, he uses that language a handful of times throughout the book, and then he published subsequent books on this same topic. That's kind of the source of the modern elevation of the modern family ministry or churches partnering with parents.
Sure.
And by the way, it's biblical. It's mathematical. It's logical.
Yeah, it seems like it should happen.
Should be the primary spiritual influence over the lives of their kids. But throughout our, myself personally, 25 years or so working in this space of working with churches on helping them do this, over the course of several, 2 decades, we began to develop a hypothesis that there could be something keeping us from doing this more effectively. So this conversation, parents and churches partnering together, it's been around for a while now.
Because, just building on what you just said there, it's not like a lack of interest.
No.
It's not like a lack of opportunity.
It's not for a lack of effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the underlying type of cause, if you will.
So the picture we're painting here, this message has been around, popularized. It's been at the popular level since 2003.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the needle on that dashboard and we're asking ourselves, since 2003, has that needle moved?
Sure.
And it doesn't seem, now we have a whole different generation of parents. So we're looking like, hey, is that needle really moving on our parents stepping up and engaging their kids? And I think the feeling at large, the thinking at large in children's ministry and next gen ministry is that the needle hasn't really moved much. So can I just have permission for a moment to be proud of one of my kids, so to speak? Like, as a parent when you're like...
It's hard to say no to.
Yeah, I know. As a parent when you're like, can I just tell you about something?
I want to hear.
So I was using that kind of metaphorically speaking. Like the child we're talking about here is what the organization of Awana has produced. Like I think we have contributed something to this conversation, some insight that I don't think we're not hearing this anywhere else. So if I could just be proud of something that this ministry has uncovered that I think is pretty insightful, and that's what we're about to get into. We began to drill into some research, I think it was 2021, 2022, that we think begins to put our finger on the pulse of like, why is this conversation not advancing? It's been around since 2003.
Yeah.
Why is this needle not moving?
Again, the easy thing to do would be to kind of shift our blame and to say parents just aren't willing to do this. They're not
Correct.
They don't want to do this. They're entrusting us, the quote unquote professionals, to make all this happen.
Yeah, because where's the take-home sheet? It's at the floor of the minivan.
Yeah.
Like we've tried and we've tried and we've tried. You know,
Yeah.
the digital resources, One Hope said to us a couple of years ago, the digital resources that were created during COVID, they have some back-end data on that, and most of them were not used. Parents did not use the resources we gave them. So what's the problem here? So in 2022, we had a hypothesis, that the church and the home were at a bit of a stalemate together, meaning they both love one another, but sometimes in our relationships we can get stuck, like gridlocked.
Yeah. So a couple of examples of stalemates for those people who aren't maybe engaged in that type of conversation all the time. The Cold War, for those who might be a little bit older like us.
Yeah.
That seems weird to say, but that was an illustration of a stalemate. You had the USSR and the USA kind of locked in a position where neither could advance.
And if you're even older than us, like the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, right? Like that cartoon.
Yeah, the Montagues and Capulets in Romeo and Juliet, to be a little literary there.
Samwise Gamgee and Gollum.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are relationships that are stuck.
I mean, that one didn't stay stuck, per se.
Well, true, I guess.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Sorry there.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, classic example. The Office, Jim and Dwight.
Dwight. Yeah.
Stalemate relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So the church and the home are at a bit of a stalemate. We both love one another, but church leaders emphatically, kids pastors say, you are responsible at a rate of 95%, according to our Barna research. But parents are split almost right down the middle, parents and congregants, almost half and half, where they say, half of them say, no, I think the church is responsible for discipling our kids. And the other half say, no, we are responsible as parents. So the two entities of the church and home don't quite see these in the same way. So we wanted to understand if we, since 2003, the church at large, all the conferences that are built around churches partnering with parents, all the curriculum that's been produced, the books that have been written, our hypothesis was they've not been shown how in a relational way. So if they've not been shown how, why are we not spending our time relationally equipping parents? So we did a research project. This is a bit of a nerd fest, right? This is a bit of a nerd. We're going to get into some
if you're
data.
a data head, you're going to really like this. And if you're not, don't worry. Your friend Mike here will help move this along.
We're going to get into some data, but if you like story, the data tells a really interesting story. So in order to understand why are more kids pastors not spending relational time equipping parents, which is what parents say the why they're not doing it.
So just to kind of again, break this down a little bit. This data doesn't measure the handouts being given from children's minister, whatever else, to parents. You're saying this is a relational connection that is being made from that children's ministry individual to the parent.
Correct.
In an equipping type of
Because like if
fashion.
you're expecting, let's say you work in a corporate environment, if you're expecting something from your employees, even if you're working in a factory, like they need your employees need to be trained on how to do the job.
Correct.
So that what you're asking them to do, they've been shown how.
Yeah.
But parents say, well, no one's ever relationally shown me how. So we wanted to understand how do kids pastors spend their time. So in a 2022 research project with the 5x5 agency, we asked kids pastors, as a children's ministry leader in your church, how do you spend your time each week? In other words, we were just trying to establish a baseline. We weren't asking how much time do you spend doing this or that.
We weren't listing activities here.
It was open-ended.
This was you choose your own adventure. Tell us everything you want to tell us.
And they could list up to 5 different things.
Okay.
Right? Well, the number one way by far that kids pastors spend their time is called preparation and planning at a rate of 144%. And you might ask yourself, like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
Here's how it's possible. You could list 5 things. So that means 1.44% of all responses related to preparation or planning. Well, that you might wonder, well, then, like, what's the number 2 response, 3, 4, and 5? Number 2 is communicating. Number 3 was administrative tasks. Number 4 was studying. Or excuse me, number 4 was meetings. Number 4 is meetings. So if we summarize those top 4 categories, it's pretty much all in the administration area. And by the way, number 6 was coordinating and scheduling. So
a lot of logistics.
Yeah, a lot of logistics, a lot of administrative stuff. And again, I would say that's important stuff, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think about this, and it would be really easy to cast aspersions and to say, well, you should just be doing life on life ministry. But,
Correct.
Like the supply closet doesn't stack itself.
Correct.
Like your volunteer team, like somebody's sick.
Yeah, you got to have people in the rooms and the environments with kids.
And let's just be biblical here for a second, if we're able to.
I hope we are.
Yes. Thank you for that. If we look back in the book of Acts, right, we romanticize the book of Acts at times. We can say, oh, look at it, it's the birth of the church and all these great things are happening and people are, people are coming to the Lord and all this stuff. But we skip over sometimes what happens in Acts chapter 6 here, and the church is growing. And every day, like chapter 5 ends, every day in the temple from house to house, they did not cease teaching and preaching that Christ is Jesus, right? So you have like this rapid revival happening. Yeah. And then chapter 6 opens and these words are written. Now, in these days when the disciples were increasing in number, a complaint by the Hellenists arose against the Hebrews because their widows were being neglected in the daily distribution. People needed things and they weren't being seen. They weren't being served. The logistics weren't happening to that point, right?
So you're validating the importance of administrative tasks.
Yeah, so what happens here? The men are called to serve the Grecian widows, to make sure they're not overlooked, to make sure that they're served. Logistics are necessary. Yeah. They're a part of ministry.
So just like in past episodes when we've said, hey, we're just being analytical, we're just establishing a baseline of reality. All we're doing here in this first little data point, we're just establishing reality that the majority of our local church leadership, especially in kids ministry, is administrative in nature. We're not making a judgment call. We're just simply defining reality. We're establishing a baseline of what's going on. Now, let's take that reality with us as we dig a little deeper into the next data point.
Yeah.
So we wanted to understand in that same 2022 research project, by the way, in case I didn't say, this comes from The Faith of Our Children, 8 timely research insights for the next generation. So we asked this question, biggest ministry insight areas that get the least of our time. Here we go. Of the activities listed below. So notice we're moving from an open-ended question, which is what the first other one was. Now we're giving them mental prompts. So of the activities listed below, which ones would you say take up the majority of your time and capacity throughout the week?
Being asked to children's ministry leaders.
Yes.
Which of these listed activities get the least amount of your time?
Defining their reality.
Correct.
So at the top, communication, event prep, weekend prep, volunteer management, midweek prep. So once again, there's a lot of administrative tasks, a lot of logistics. So, but here's what's interesting. If you scroll way down on the page and you look third or fourth from the bottom, it says mentoring and discipling parents at a rate of 5%.
Probably not even a category a lot of people think about per se.
Well,
in balance to these other things.
Yeah, because you're right. Like Sunday comes every week, right? So these administrative tasks dominate our time.
Yeah.
So let's keep moving. Again, the story's being fleshed out question by question as we get more insight. The next question is, regardless of how you spend the majority of your time. So we've established how time is spent. It's predominantly administrative. But now we're moving into, well, how would you like to spend your time? Regardless of how you spend the majority of time, what are you doing that you believe will having the most impact on child discipleship? So let's take a look at these top 4. Building relationships, prayer, discipling, mentoring, and equipping parents. What's the theme of those top 4?
Yeah, this is together. This is equipping. This is people.
It's
not tasks.
relational equipment. Even though
Yeah.
prayer's number 2, prayer's that relational connection
Absolutely.
between us. We're contending with God, connecting with Him. So we're building relationships, prayer, discipleship, mentoring, and equipping parents. Those are all relational in nature. In that same project, we dig a little deeper. There's also a chapter in here on parents where we get into some of those items. We ask the question in multiple ways. What do you wish you could be doing? There's another way we ask it in the parenting chapter, I believe, where the top 2 ways that kids ministry leaders believe that they could be most effective at discipling children is equipping parents, which is relational, and equipping volunteers. But again, when we ask them to what degree do they do those things fall to the bottom. So kind of like our gap analysis of previous episodes, we say we wish that we value this here, but our performance of this very same thing is way down here. So we have this big gap.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about, it's kind of a tyranny of the urgent, like the urgency of weekly ministry. It's just, these are tasks and things that need to be done. They're important.
Yes.
But they may be weighted differently than the long-term effectiveness that could be achieved by spending time with parents, by mentoring parents, by equipping parents. And that's a frustrating problem, perhaps.
I think this is the linchpin for why we say, oh man, we have such a heart that parents would step up and disciple their kids. And when we ask kids pastors, which is in another chapter, when we ask them, well, what's the number one thing you do to equip parents? It's we hand them a resource. Mm-hmm. We give them a resource. That's many times physical, but sometimes it might be a podcast or an email. But the resources are not being used.
Yeah.
And they're not being used because parents have not been relationally trained and equipped and shown how, demonstrated how. That's the space we've really got to move into.
And let's just take a step back.
Yeah.
I'm sure for those who went to Bible college or who went to seminary or whatever else and find themselves in this reality, there's probably this kind of rude awakening moment where they're like, I don't remember feeling called to administrative tasks per se.
Yeah, you didn't get into this because you saw the impact.
Man, I'm just praying for a calling from the Lord to, fill out checklists and to make sure volunteer sheets are filled out.
Yeah.
But there is a reality to the situation that this is necessary.
Obviously. It's obviously necessary. So I think we're at a point of like, well, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What should we do about this? And so some practical helps we give both in the book Forming Faith by Moody Publishers, as well as The Faith of Our Children. We discuss like, okay, how do we break this stalemate? How do we move from where we currently are, which is we want to see parents engaging their kids spiritually, but parents say, no one's ever shown me how, no one's ever trained me how. And the church engine, the operating system, is all around administrative tasks about how to get ready for Sunday morning. So this is why we're stuck in a stalemate. So what should we do about that?
So Matt, as we think through these different challenges that we have, as we think through the important weightiness of the tasks of the week-to-week logistics and all of these things, as we consider probably the deep-rooted desire and perhaps even disappointment that we have in our own ability or inability to really kind of disciple parents, to help them disciple their kids. What should we do about this? Like, what's the next step here?
I'm convinced, having lived in this research and lived in this children's ministry space for 25 years, I'm convinced that if we want a different outcome of seeing parents engage more spiritually, there are some things we must do differently. And if we don't, we're not going to see different results.
Sure.
Having said that, I don't think the pain of going from where we are to where we need to go is maybe as great as when you start talking about change, it's like, oh boy, this. Well,
yeah, there's a ton of reasons why you can't too,
yeah.
Right? I mean, like, we can get back to metrics that we're being measured on.
Yeah.
What's the success of your children's ministry based on? Like all these types of things.
So to ease the fear and the burden of change, let me just give a personal example.
Sure.
Mike knows this. Mike's much more physically fit than I am. Mike runs. He works out. He's been
I'm
doing
just
this.
running not to die. That's the only reason I run.
But you've been doing this mostly on, a little bit off for several years.
Yeah.
And you have watched
off for several years.
you have watched me buck against that. My body has somehow has not completely fallen apart, but I'm approaching 50, and just this last month, I bought the gym membership and decided I'm going to do this. So far, 3 weeks into the year, I've stuck with it.
You're an Adonis. If I can just say that.
I don't even know what that means, but yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
just buff, ready to go.
Here's the point that I'd like to make. In order for me to stick with the program that I'm at, I'm not going from 0 hours at the gym to 20 hours.
Yeah, you didn't just turn into a gym rat overnight.
I am essentially talking about 3 hours, including time in the car.
Yeah.
So I'm going from 0 hours to 3 hours to stick with the physical fitness program that I need. So my point is, and when all the hours that you have in a week, that's not like radical, right?
Yeah.
So in a similar way, if our problem is in children's ministry that, hey, we want to see parents discipling their kids, but they're not doing it because they're saying, no one's ever shown me how relationally, and kids pastors are like, man, I'd love to do that, but my operating system is so wrapped up in getting ready for Sunday, I just don't know how to create that kind of time. In a very similar way as the little gym illustration, I don't think we're talking about going from, if you've got a 40-hour work week, dedicating 10 hours to this. I think we're saying, what if there were 2 or 3, let's be generous, let's say 4, let's say 2 to 4 hours a week that you could dedicate to relational engagement and parents some way. Maybe some of that's direct to parent across a table having coffee. Maybe some of that is building a program that will help you facilitate that on campus. And we can kind of maybe talk through a couple of those examples.
Yeah, and quite possibly, there's already parents of children in your ministry that are doing a great job at
They're
this.
the leading parents, right? Yeah.
And they could be some of your first partners in this type of effort.
Correct.
You don't have to do this by yourself, is what I'm saying.
Correct. So let's stick with we'll just shoot to the middle and say 3 hours. Let's say you decide, I want to dedicate 3 hours of my work week to moving the needle on more relational engagement directly with parents, or building a program to help me do that.
180 minutes.
Yeah, 180 minutes. Here's the secret. Listen carefully. The secret is don't try to change next week. The secret is don't try to change next month. Why is that? Mike, you're a busy guy.
I am.
If I say to you, hey, Mike, next Tuesday, hey, let's go grab coffee, what are you going to say to me? Very possibly.
Let me look at my calendar.
Yeah, and you look at your calendar, and what do you see?
How about Tuesday in June?
Mike travels a lot.
Yeah.
But even people who don't travel a lot, you've got staff meeting. You've got engagements that are already booked next week. You probably have engagements that are already booked next month. Here's the secret to changing your calendaring operating system. You have to go at least 6 months out. And depending on who you are and what your life is like, you may have to go 9 to 12 months out. So here's what you do. Almost like real estate developers, they go into a city that's sprawling and spreading, and they start buying up the land. That's what you are a tycoon time developer on your calendar, and you got to go at least 6 months out, and you start looking at that, what would be 6 months from now? July. You start looking at that the week after 4th of July, and you start blocking those 3 hours.
Let's go to coffee then.
And you create a weekly system, and you just auto-populate on your calendar moving forward. What you've done is you've bought that real estate 6 months in advance. So by the time you get to, let's say, May and June, and you're starting to look 30, 60 days out, something in your mind goes, oh yeah, like I forgot that I bought that time already, and I'm going to start spending that time. This is the secret to managing your time differently.
Yeah, I've also heard it said that today is tomorrow's boss in some regards. So the things that you start to prioritize today will become the things that kind of you work toward tomorrow.
That's so good. So, okay, so we're in May or we're in June, and we start to notice those 3 hours on the calendar.
Yeah. We're 5 months down the road. We see that on the horizon.
So if you're a smaller church, you might think about ways to personally, maybe, as you said a moment ago, who are those 2 or 3 families that are already doing this well? And you might want to start with them.
Yeah.
Just connect with them. Go to coffee. Go to breakfast.
Get
have
some
lunch.
easy wins under your belt.
Yeah, get some easy and ask them, hey, what are the things that you do?
Yeah.
You guys, I know you guys are involved in the spiritual lives of your own kids. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
And so you start learning from those, and you find ways to pull them closer relationally. And then you find out, well, how do we bring in maybe one family that's like willing and able, right?
Yeah,
They may
just
not
wanna
be
try
doing it,
Yeah.
but you have someone within the sphere of your church who's like, they know they need to do this, and they would probably be willing to go. So you bring that couple or that family into this mix, and you just kind of journey with these 3, 4, 5 families for a while. It's very organic, very natural. And you can do this relationally by buying that time on your calendar well in advance.
So what I hear you saying, Matt, is that you don't need to have everyone in order to be successful.
Correct.
But you got to start somewhere.
Well, technology developers in today's world with the way they build apps, many times they test small and they fail fast, right?
Yeah.
You've told me this. I don't know anything about this.
So
Mike's more of a technology guy.
Iterative development in that regard, right?
Development.
You're just iterating this thing over and over and over. You're starting small, you're starting manageable, and you're just kind of, like you said, relationally moving this through the
Start
system.
small, fail fast. You learn from the failings.
Plan out for the future too, which is another important thing.
Make
here.
it better week by week, month by month, and you learn it. Okay, now let's go to the other end of the spectrum and say that you're a mega church or a large church.
Multi-campuses, whatever.
You've got, let's say you've got 100 or 500 or 1,000 parents, and you're asking yourself, how can I do this at that scale? You can apply the same principles. Buy the calendaring time well in advance. Mm-hmm. Build a program, whatever that program is.
You can start small too. Again.
Exactly. Well, I would even say the way we build it is by starting small, like test groups.
Yeah.
We have a test group of 5 couples or 12 couples, whatever that number is, and we journey with them and we learn what are the things that are going to help parents, what are the skills, what's going to motivate them, what about the vision, what are the kind of areas to focus on, and we learn with them. And over time, as maybe you go through a couple of iterations, and then if you're to the point where you're like, okay, well, I think we have a core program here that can work. The way to roll it out, Mike, is just like churches have a next steps class or a new believers course, or they have a membership course or baptism. Why can we not insert the same type of program into those same systems and rhythms and spaces in our churches? But it's how to disciple your own kids.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about this in a future episode too.
Yeah, exactly.
But what you're kind of putting out there, You're putting out there a picture to say this should be an integrated part of ministry, not some sort of standalone thing. It doesn't have to be perfect from the beginning.
Correct.
It's going to start small. You're going to start testing it, and it's going to start sometime in the future, so you can work your way to it. Don't do everybody tomorrow.
Yep. So let's review. Everybody wants their parents at their church to engage in the lives of their kids spiritually. But we all have this sense of holy discontent, like it's not happening quite like we want it to. But then at the same time, we realize I as a kids pastor, I'm spending all my time doing administrative tasks, getting ready for the weekend. And
important.
Very important. No one's dogging that. But parents are saying, hey, I just need you to show me how. I need someone to show me how. So our very practical problem is we have to figure out how to set aside time to figure out how to relationally do these things to systemically solve the problem. Well, then our next problem is, how do I set aside that kind of time? Don't try to change your calendar next week. Don't try to change your calendar next month. Go at least 6 months out. That gives you time to ramp up to changing your world. And then you can begin to build experiences where you're in the same room as parents. You're across the table having coffee, or you've built a small program or a wide scale, like a new believers class, but an equipping parents to disciple their kids type of course. Maybe it's 3 weeks, maybe it's 5 weeks, but it's something that you can really get your arms around. I think these are the ways we begin to systemically solve the problem, so that parents aren't saying, no one's ever shown me how, but instead they're saying, hey, because you showed me how, I have the confidence to do this, and I'm starting to do this at home with my kids.
It's good. It seems manageable. It doesn't seem like everything all at once type of thing, which is oftentimes how we get distracted and kind of disillusioned and disappointed with
Correct.
the efforts that we're trying to make.
I'm not running a marathon with my physical fitness. I'm just going to the gym 3 times a week.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's attainable. It's achievable. Check back in with me 6 months from now. We'll make sure that I'm still doing this.
Well, what I like about this whole thing, Matt, is that this isn't a shame-based thing.
No.
A lot of parents are looking for help. They're just looking for a reassurance. They're looking for an encouraging partner in this whole thing.
And kids pastors want nothing more but to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So same desire in different spheres. So let's just try to work our way toward doing these things together as partners.
It's good.
Down the road, and again, in a manageable way.
Yeah.
100% isn't what we're looking for right out of the gate.
Beautiful.
But we're looking for more than 0.
Well, whether you're a church leader, kids pastor, parent, you are involved in discipling the lives of your kids. There's nothing more important on planet Earth. It's the best work, and you're doing a great job. We'll see you at the next episode.
Take care.